shows that you actually replicate your fast fiber cells. So if athletes want to get faster, we use a growth hormone releasing model within their training to try to maximize that wonderful hormone that's so powerful, again, that it's, it's illegal to inject artificially. But your body does the same thing naturally with the Sprint 8. So it's all out for 30 seconds, then you drop it back to level 2 for a minute and a half as an active recovery, just to recover. If you're sprint swimming, for example, it would be sprint swimming hard and fast for 25 meters, hanging on the side of the pool for a minute and a half, or dog pedaling back nice and easy for a minute and a half. And that's one sprint sequence. So the key is to build up to 8. And it sounds pretty easy because out of the 20 minutes, only 4 minutes is hard anaerobic exercise, but it's the hardest 4 minutes of your life. Typically, if you look at a week's time, we're asking people to do an hour's worth of cardio, of which only 12 minutes is anaerobic. But if you think about it, that fast twitch fiber lines up with your ATP PC energy system of 6 to 8 seconds worth of stored up energy. That's taken care. That takes care of the first part of the sprint cardio. But then what happens after that is that your body releases lactic acid in a major way, and for 20 years we taught that lactic acid makes you sore. Now we know that that's not true. Lactic acid is actually reprocessed in your body like a ventless fireplace. It actually reprocesses that for energy. So we're learning so many things about the body, but it points back to what children do naturally, and that is play.
I read that in your book, that what we learned about lactic acid was wrong. But what does make you sore?
Well, the leading theory is that the reason we train in the first place, the reason people go to the gym is not to do X amount of reps or X amount of training. The benefit comes from creating microfiber tears in the muscle fiber. So in other words, when we work out and we play hard and we go to the gym and do bench press, for example, you're creating microfiber tears in the front deltoids and also your chest muscles. And when you sleep at night, the body heals those microfiber tears back bigger and stronger. And that's exactly why we train, and that's the benefits from training. So and what people generally refer to as the 10% rule, if you add training volume more than 10%, you create more microfiber tears than you normally should when you train that your body's accustomed to. Therefore, you get sore. So it's like a self-defense mechanism from the body. The muscle sometimes does heat up a little bit and get inflamed, but sometimes it's just really a signal from your brain through your nervous system to you saying, hey, back off this. I'm sore. I need more rest before I'm ready to go again.
And why is it 3 times a week versus 5 times a week?
That's a great question. When you're working slow twitch fiber, and we see this in a lot of athletes as well as adults, when you're working slow twitch fiber, that fiber can repair itself quicker because it's smaller muscle fiber than the fast fiber cells, but it repairs itself pretty much daily. The research shows, however, within athletes, and I'm sure it's going to apply to adults as well, that it takes about 48 hours for that muscle fiber to totally heal back. The muscle cells are bigger, and for whatever reason, it takes about 48 hours. So for that reason, a lot of coaches train athletes from professional ranks all the way down. Heavy light. That doesn't mean you can't train the next day after doing a hard, fast fiber workout, but it does mean that those muscle fiber cells have not totally healed themselves. And there's another point, too, and that is the research shows that the body processes dietary glucose very efficiently for 2.5 days after you train. Now, your metabolism actually stays revved up for 9 days. So some people make the claim, well, if you do this program, your metabolism is going to stay up for 9 days. And that's true almost with any exercise, but it significantly drops off about 2.5 days. So in a perfect world, if you train every other day, then you're setting your body up to process glucose more efficiently for those 2 days. But what we tell people with Sprint 8 is get it in 3 times a week, even if it's back-to-back. Just get it in 3 times a week because people are so time crunched today, and that needs to be the goal. But in a perfect world, it would be every other.
Now, I want to talk to you from the point of view of a listener like myself, considering themselves too heavy, carrying too much extra body fat, wanting to do this, committing to do this, and being scared they may sprain something because they're carrying too much weight when they go into full intensity, which is part of why I know you said you have to build up to this. So talk to us about how that translates in practicality. How do we build up to this?
Well, if you're actually running a sprint 8, a whole different set of rules apply because you're taking your whole body weight and basically with one of your hamstrings and glute muscles, you're propelling your body about 12 feet forward. So when you're talking about running, it's altogether different because you do have to have a progressive ramp up to get your body accustomed to striding out more than you would normally, and to work that fast twitch fiber to get it stronger, or hamstrings can be injured that way. But when you're using a piece of cardio that basically protects your hamstrings to some degree because you're riding a machine rather than carrying your whole body weight and throwing it forward, the rule is you've got to go or shoot for 30 seconds. If you just can't go more than 30 seconds, you win. If you go more than 30 seconds, more probably than not, means that you paced, you didn't recruit your fast fiber, and you missed the benchmarks to release growth hormone. So on a piece of equipment, what we typically recommend, and it can also be a treadmill, but it's still 30 seconds on a treadmill. Even though you're running, even though you may be running uphill, you're still towing off as the machine, the belt comes under you. Whereas if you're actually running outside, you're propelling your body weight forward. It's much, much more intense than running on a treadmill.
How interesting. I never even thought about the treadmill versus running outside that way. How interesting.
And that's why people can, I run a 5-minute mile on my treadmill, but I get outside and it's 7 or 8. It's not, and even though it can be uphill, you're still towing off as the machine's coming under you. So you're still riding machine. It's running, but you're riding machine as well. But anytime your body weight's resting on a machine, that's going to lessen intensity to some degree. And that's not bad. That just means you have to make up for that intensity by going a little bit faster or by adding resistance on it. So typically, the way we like to show people how to do this is on a recumbent cycle. One is because most people try a recumbent cycle, and they understand that I can sit on this thing for an hour and I don't get anything out of it. In the slow twitch world, they're right. A recumbent cycle in a slow twitch world is not much. But in the fast twitch world, it is a great piece of equipment. And we actually recommend it and use it with some cross-country Kenyans I've worked with before. One won the conference championship, and he actually did a sprint 8 on a recumbent cycle because he's working exactly the same muscles that propel the movement of running, but he's giving his skeleton a day off. And so he was able to do more training than his competitors and get off the road, do less mileage to avoid those nagging injuries. But anyway, on the recumbent cycle, you'd probably do level 2 to warm up. After you get a 3-minute warm-up in, hit level 10, and then the goal is to go all out for 30 seconds. And what we see there is the weakness of your or the strength or weakness of your fast twitch fiber basically limits people from going fast enough to really hurt themselves to some degree. Now, we can never say exercise is safe. You always have to, recommend, hey, if you've got a question about it, go see your physician, make sure your heart muscle's checked out. But typically, have you ever heard of a sprinter dying from a heart attack?
It's usually the long-distance runners, right?
Exactly. Every year, people die from Rainmaking. You can go in the endurance energy system with slow twitch fiber. You can physically push your body hard enough to kill your body. I mean, that happens every year. But I've never heard of. Maybe there's a case. I've just never heard, never seen it, look for it. Never heard of a 100-meter sprinter ever dying from a 100-meter sprint. I mean, those guys are in shape aerobically as well as anaerobically, but it's almost like the weakness of there's a cell, it's like the body puts in a self-defense mechanism because when you first start, you can't go very fast if you don't have strong fast twitch fiber. But as your fast twitch fiber gets stronger, so does the anaerobic process of your heart muscle, and it's almost like the two go together and are meant to go together.
Everything you're saying is the opposite of a lot of the false beliefs many of us, myself included, have been told and ingested and taught about fitness. You say in the book, natural growth hormone pulses 12 times a day. Can you talk about that?
Well, the research shows there's a natural release of growth hormone about 12 times a day. And as we get older, the amount released diminishes. However, there's a couple of studies that suggest the longer you do sprint 8, you're training your pituitary to release more during a release of growth hormone. And I really think that's true. You see that over and over. We just did a study at King Stars Medical Center where I'm in the process. We just built an ICU fitness center here and building a performance research center for athletes now. But we just did a study with about 20 middle-aged nurses. And we gave them a 1-hour lecture about like what you're hearing right now. This is how you do sprint 8. We did a resting internal medicine panel to look at